Hi, I'm Danica Bloom of Swoonworthy Services. Christopher Boucher, whom I met at AuthorNation 2024. I think we have a fabulous meet cute. Our meet cute was because of this man's socks. I was going to ask, what do you got? I'm kind of a big deal. And there they are. This was not planned. He did not know I was going to ask. Yeah, this man is
You think I wasn't prepared for that, Danica? Come on.
Love meeting you, and I love working with you this way. So Chris Boucher is an audiobook narrator, and you're doing something that is amazing. I just recently listened to my first duet narrated book. Because they're not easy to find, and it was lights out. And I'm like, I never want to listen to another book that isn't duet narrated ever again, because it was so freaking good. Okay, so let us get to this. Christopher Boucher of New York City. Tell me a little bit about what inspired you to found your company, Actors Everywhere, and even maybe a little bit about all the varied careers that got you to where you are as not just an audiobook narrator and an actor, but someone who lifts up other actors in your area.
Oh, sure. So it all came about, as most things do. When you look back, the trail seems direct, but at the time you're very surprised when it shows up. So I first kind of got into serious acting after I left the military. I'm a veteran, and so I was in the Air Force. I was actually in a veteran support group because I was in from 2000, 2004. It was kind of a tumultuous time in the world. When I got out, this veteran support group was processing trauma through Shakespeare. And I had a bit of an acting background as well as a computer science background. I used to program for the military. And I, through that support group, got a national touring acting gig for a show. And the sound guy, I used to warm up by doing the voices from The Princess Bride, which is my favorite movie of all time.
Now you have to do a couple of the lines that everybody.
My Andre the Giant, he has a clock-stopping French accent, so he's a little bit tougher to do, but are there rocks ahead? If there are, we'll be dead. Like, I can quote that movie from start to finish. Yeah. But he heard me doing the voices, and he's like, hey, man, you do voices. You should consider audiobooks. And I said, what's that? Not that I didn't know what audiobooks were, but the idea had never occurred to me that they could be something you do professionally and get paid for. So we connected, we did that. He was the technical guy and I was just the talent. And it occurred to me that I used to program for the US Air Force, so maybe I could figure out the tech stuff too. And so I ended up teaching myself all of the kind of sound engineering. I built my first booth, which led me to learning a bit of acoustical physics, which made me very angry for a period of time. That was infuriating. I got reached out to by a client. I had one of those like New York or LA moments where I got a phone call and someone said, hey, kid, I'll make you famous. They had an idea. They had a whole backlog of books they wanted to do. And it was dozens upon dozens, close to 100. And they were continuing to write. And I thought, wait a second, I could make this a process. And my background in the military makes me process prone. I didn't like the traditional models for art. And the problem with art is that the gig economy is so problematic in terms of creating stability, which I crave, frankly, even as an entrepreneur, which is a little bit odd. I can handle tumult, but I prefer stability. And so I came up with a model that would allow me to give people a salary versus gig by gig. And then also when I heard it, I realized that I could not do female characters nearly as well as females could.
So let's jump into that. So this concept, for anybody who is not familiar, I mentioned my first duet narrated audiobook. Most of the books I prefer to listen to, they are alternating point of view chapters. I, for the most part, read and listen to male-female romance. So there's the guy, there's the woman, and in the man's chapter's point of view, he's doing the woman's voice and she is doing his and hers. Now that is dual POV narration, right?
Yeah, where each chapter, one narrator does all the voices.
But what you do is called duet.
Yes, we do duet where all of the male lines will be done by a male narrator and all of the female lines will be done by a female narrator. And kind of the unique way that we do it, different from the usual, which is that you'd hire a male narrator somewhere in the world, who knows where, and you'd hire a female narrator somewhere in the world, and then they would record their lines separately, and you would engineer them together. People are reading books kind of differently. Scenes can be understood a little bit differently. There are great books out there done by narrators that have never talked to each other, and it sounds fine. I think the way we do it, which is, and I'm lucky enough to be in New York City, so I have a lot of talent to pull from. We put them in a sound booth together at the same time, like they're on stage, and I prefer to hire theatrically trained actors. They get to read back and forth in real time together and play off of each other. And when you see like, oh, this character cuts off that other character, our actors actually cut them off. Not that weird like quarter-second space before another voice comes in. Like they're talking over each other and feeding off of each other in the scene, which elevates the kind of synthesis in it. Like you get a better cohesive scene to my ears.
So thinking of having the two actors in the sound booth together, what are the main benefits? I mean, you've touched on it, but like specifically for romance novelists, how does that?
Oh, sure. I think the unique challenge and opportunity really in romance is that there's nothing more intimate. There's nothing more personal than how two people build off of each other's chemistry and attraction. Like that, those are incredibly group-oriented activities. Like it's not like I'm a leader of a band of warriors. I'm gonna lead the way I lead and you all follow. Like this is, I have to respond to the energy you're giving me. And we have to find this middle ground where we're both enjoying each other. Our people get to create that energy together, and the pauses and the kind of extra like giggles and chuckles and laughter and playing the banter. It just sounds so much better, in my opinion, when done with the people together. And of course, we do chemistry tests for the people we pair up. So they're good together and they create wonderful art.
What are some of the challenges that you face doing narration this way as opposed to a book that is solo or dual narrated?
Well, right off the bat, there's a bit of a financial challenge because I pay people salary to ensure that they're here always. So if there are days where I don't have enough clients or whatever, they get a paycheck and I have to eat that day. That's the trade-off. I build the model around that, so we're generally fine. We're doing great, so it's not a big concern. But that is a challenge that I have to work with, scheduling people. They have to make sure that they're meeting at our studio in person at the same time. So a lot of people get into audiobook narration because it's, maybe a fiscally sound side gig, or they like it because like, hey, I can do it whenever I want.
Do it from my closet. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know if you've ever worked with any actors before, but wrangling them is like herding kittens sometimes. It can be a bit of a challenge. So we have to coordinate with our administrator and make sure everybody's covered. Life comes up, things happen, so we reschedule time.
What about creatively for duet versus dual or solo narration?
Oh, creatively, I find that generally there are no unique challenges to the way that we do things. The challenges you would run into, like, let's say one person starts a book, there will be chapters where there is perhaps one line for the male or female. And so we don't put them into the booth and make them wait 20 minutes for their line to show up, and then they deliver, and then they're sitting for the last 10 minutes. Like we don't, for that one chapter, okay, record it at your leisure, get it to us, we'll put it in. But most of the chapters and most of the lines are in. But if there were characters or proper names that are maybe pronounced uniquely, you still have to do it like with any other book. You have to share that with your partner and say, hey, I pronounced the name this way. Make sure that you pronounce it this way. Otherwise, we're going to sound very weird. there's nothing unique about the way that we do things. And oftentimes we get the benefit of you're in from day one and you can agree together. So the opportunities for saying, oh, hey, we've got like a sibling, like a brother and a sister. Let's make sure we're choosing the same accent for this character so that we don't record half the book in different accents and then realize, oh, shoot, now we have to do this. So you can collaborate a lot more effectively. You can split the effort on checking through the book. Like one person will go through a first half and look for unique characters and plot points. And then the other person will go through the second half and they'll take care of theirs. So you can collaborate and really cut down on the amount of work you need to do during the prep stage on books. So that's, with having two people, the administrative load is actually halved. So it's a lot easier in that regard.
Okay, so thinking in terms of early career romance authors, who are considering doing an audiobook adaptation of one or several of their novellas even,
Yeah.
what would you tell them if they're curious about duet narration?
I mean, I hands down think that it's the best way to do romance novels. Again, because of the focus on relationships and the chemistry, I'd hands down think it's the best way to do that. At the risk of shooting myself in the foot, I will say, if your ebook has not earned at least enough to cover the cost of audiobook, don't jump into it. I think too many people make the mistake of thinking, and it's not that this is never true, it's just so rarely true. Too many people make the mistake of thinking the audiobook will be a primary form of marketing and will really help me make sales. And really, at the end of the day, the authors and their already existing fans are the prime drivers of activity for sales. Again, it's not like there aren't possible exceptions. And maybe if you're going to a certain convention and everyone there is a big audiophile, like then, hey, maybe make sure you've got an audiobook on tap ready to go. Broadly speaking, we are an upsell product. We are for the people who already know about you and you've already cast your net kind of wide. You've got that. So I always try and caution people from starting an audiobook venture until they've at least covered the cost of what it costs to pay us to do things. So that's like the first piece of advice.
I don't know why this just occurs to me, but in this, I hate that we can't have a single conversation in this year without talking about AI, but I know of authors who are talking a lot about the low cost of using digital AI,
Sure.
AI created voices for their
Sure.
books. I'm wondering, if duet narration is going to be the thing that in 2027, for instance, is like, well, we know these are human narrators because you can't do it otherwise.
Oh, sure. So
Right.
there are absolutely benefits. If you want to assure your market or fans that you are doing non-AI related work, duet narration where there's overlap. And again, elevated performances, not just a clean, straight read, but something where if they're running through the woods, you're quick, like you're putting in the performance. There are definitely some fields of audiobooks where AI will probably take the lead. Medical narration, historical pieces. I think there's a place for that. And there are people who just want a clean, straight read. I think the cost then shifts to your editors because your AI narrator is going to mess up every word that you messed up in your manuscript. And I'll tell you the number one thing that we get, especially with indie authors, it's understandable, but I know what word you meant to type when you either grammatically messed up a sentence or you misspelled something or there's a typo. AI will not. And
Correct.
You're going to have to spend extra money on editing that you think you saved on the audiobook. But in terms of like, oh, that scene didn't quite sound right, or the inflection's weird because of homonyms. So homonyms are a huge issue for AI in reading, and you will have to take the time to beta listen and sit through it and listen for things. I mean, I've had that issue occasionally in my own work. I had a narrator who didn't know what a gyroscopic, it was a military piece. And she's from New York. And so she read it gyro, like the sandwich.
Yeah. That's
Why
amazing.
would there be a gyro in a robot piece like that? It's a little bit weird, but hey, it happens. The human element will really cover for a lot of issues that AI will make apparent. The editing, the homonyms, elevated performances. AI is going to be like, "Ugh." He said as he kissed it, like, we can do little moments that replicate the sounds that kind of really dive you into the world and immerse you in the story. AI is not prepared to do that yet.
Are you able to share the name of a book that you are particularly proud of? That, like a romance novel or novella?
A romance book. So
Or
Hannah Hayes, the Omega Verse, that author, we've done a lot of her audiobooks. So the people from my company pretty much handle most of her audiobooks. And I am on the Rockview pack. It's a Omegaverse packs. It's kind of like not quite werewolves, not quite shifter romance, but there are elements of it.
So, Chris, if you could narrate any novel from history, what would you choose to narrate and why?
Oh, the Wuthering Heights by
Wuthering.
M. Bronte. Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Um, and I don't know how I would approach it exactly because I think that Heathcliff is one of the most misunderstood romantic interests in all of literature because he is a horrible human being. He is awful. And he is kind of put on a bit of a pedestal and he is very much romanticized by a lot of readers. I mean, Bronte's work is fantastic and seminal within literature. I just think that it would be so interesting because the whole story is done as like kind of letters from this traveling gentleman. And so I do think that like Heathcliff is a tragic figure. I think he was given a bad set of circumstances and it understandably shaped him into the man he becomes. But there is just this twisted, brutal attraction between him and the young woman on the estate that he ends up getting fostered into. And getting a third person, and a fairly objective, I would argue, third person perspective that could be compassionate but honest about watching this couple of young people grow up in their brutal, devastating connection that never quite materializes. I think it's such a difficult story to relate compassionately, but with the energy that is there, it would be such a challenge, but I would love to do that book.
I so want to hear this now. Like, you have just got me convinced that I want to hear. Like, I can feel the energy that you've got for that.
Such a good story.
So I was going to ask you, what would be a swoon-worthy scene, the best swoon-worthy scene that you've ever recorded? But you've just reminded me, because you've just triggered that kind of like feeling in me, of some of the TikTok reels you have done with that. The pen name is Rose Gravestone. Am I right?
Yes, Dasha Sogoloff, her pen name right now is Rose Gravestone. Yes.
Okay. So I think we should just, from here,
Oh,
over to the TikTok and just have a look at what the heck you two do. If anyone's wondering, I mean, you wouldn't be at this point. Does Actors Everywhere, does Chris do spicy? Yeah, he does spicy. He will act spicy for you. Well, maybe.
oh, sure. I'm for hire. That's fair to say. I'm for hire.
And he's kind of a big deal.
Roll that clip.
Okay, so I'm entering
Yep.
you.
No.
I enter the bathroom hallway just as one of the doors to the private restrooms open and Chloe steps out. Before she even notices me, I act on sheer impulse, swiftly pushing her back into the bathroom and locking the door behind us.
Mason, what the fuck?
I cut Chloe off with a kiss, spinning her around and pinning her against the door, claiming her lips with mine. I gorge myself on her sweet scent, sweeter taste, and give her a punishing kiss that's a fierce reminder of the fact that she's here with me.
Christopher,
Yes, ma'am.
the people want what they want.
You always say that, and they never don't want their...
When you do the Witcher growl. We all love the Witcher growl.
Hey, look at me. Because you're mine. Don't look at those other parasites. You're mine.
What are you fucking no?
That was so fun. All right. Chris, thank you so much for telling us all about duet narration. Thank you so much for being part of the Swoon-worthy services community. I am so looking forward to so much more time with you.
I'm looking forward to it. And if anybody needs an audiobook, we've got half a dozen to a dozen or so active narrators at any given moment. So happy to give them multiplicity of auditions for anybody who needs the work.
Fantastic. Great. So, okay. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Chris.
Of course.